Do you know about the largest farmer protest in India that shook the world in 2020? Imagine a sea of humanity, tens of thousands strong, congregating on the borders of a city, with one unified demand. This is the story of the Indian farmer protests of 2020, a powerful testament to the power of peaceful protest. In late 2020, the Indian government unveiled 3 transformative agricultural reform laws. These laws were a revolutionary stride towards modernizing the agricultural sector, providing farmers with the liberty to sell their produce outside of regulated markets and engage in contract farming. The government's objective was to empower the farmers and create a wider array of opportunities for them. Regardless, some farmers expressed skepticism about the possible ramifications on government support for crops and their livelihoods. Despite the government's attempts to reassure them, they decided to take a stand. The protests began around the borders of Delhi, India's capital. Tens of thousands of farmers left their fields and set up camp. They were prepared for the long haul, armed with determination and the belief in their cause. But these protests weren't confined to India alone. The world took notice. Solidarity marches sprang up across the globe, from Canada to the United Kingdom. The plight of the Indian farmer was now a global conversation. The Indian government and the farmers entered into negotiations. These talks, however, were far from smooth sailing. They lasted for over a year, marked by instances of violence and clashes. Yet the farmers held their ground. Then, in November of 2021, after sustained pressure from the protests, the Indian government agreed to repeal the laws. The farmers had won. It was a significant victory, not just for them, but for peaceful protests everywhere. It was a reminder that when people come together for a cause they believe in, they can effect change. These protests were not simply a demonstration of unity and the efficacy of peaceful dissent, but they were also a hotbed for anti-Modi propaganda. It sparked a wave of hostility against the incumbent government, the intensity of which was palpable in the general public's display of outrage. Accusations flew thick and fast that the government was sabotaging their livelihoods with policies that did more harm than good. It's essential, however, to remember that these protests were not entirely peaceful. Episodes of violence were not uncommon, throwing a shadow over the ideology of peaceful dissent, instilling fear, and causing many to question the underlying motives. The 2020 farmer protests will therefore be remembered as a multifaceted narrative, encompassing the resilience of the common man, the powerful impact of standing up for one's beliefs, and the unfortunate consequences of violent confrontations. Far from being an innocuous event, the economic fallout from these protests was substantial. They threw supply chains into disarray and drastically altered the dynamics of the market. Despite the ensuing controversy, the protests sparked a global dialogue about agricultural policies, corporate clout, and people power. They serve as a stark reminder that even the smallest seeds can bring about formidable changes, though often at a significant price.